Okay, I think we're up and going here a little bit, and I didn't run the normal intro part um, because it's a little bit out of date, and I haven't figured all that out yet. So we're just kind of going straight to it. Remember to look over here as well. Welcome to another edition of Living in Faith in today's world. It's been a little while since I did anything. Um, I think I kind of mentioned in the last show, and the same with walking the talk. I just kind of had a need to take a break for a little bit, and I didn't want to just start putting out shows every week without really anything poignant to say, and more or less rehashing things over and over again. So, um, of course, I did a little post in our group yesterday, and it got a little bit of fervor, and it kind of sparked me as well um, to do this. And as I mentioned in that post yesterday, where Chance George had commented that, of course, he was absolutely right. This would have been an awful lot of typing in order to get it, and of course, in the typing, especially with my talents in writing. Would get it, a lot of it would be lost. So I thought this was a perfect opportunity to pick up on another show, do a little video on this, and so here we are. A little background on me for people that are new and haven't seen it. This is simply um, me sharing my journey and sharing some of my experiences. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a Bible scholar. I'm not a religious scholar. I'm really not anybody. I'm just simply trying to share a little bit um, because I think we can, and I do think it's a bit of a duty to do it. But one of the things that I also keyed into over my journey of this was there was actually very few people just sharing the experience. And to me, this, whether you're just on the truther side of this reality we're in, um, or if you're on the seeking of God and faith, it can be a lonely journey. And I think a lot of things is from my experience is you're seeing a lot of self-proclaimed, self-anointed um, people out there and pounding either a scripture or pounding a book or pounding what they are learning, which is somewhat fine. Of course, we all gain our knowledge by that. But I found very little kind of sharing on the personal side of where all this leads. So that's kind of where a little bit more of my approach is. Um, I'm not going to sit there and say, well, this is truth and this isn't, because that's everybody's own journey to comprehend and to follow and to go with. So that's kind of my approach with this side of things is just sharing it. I've been doing things for a little while, and anybody who does know me sees that I've progressed, good or bad, in whoever's opinion you want to speak to. Um, but for me, I continue to grow. And, this last couple of months has been a lot of growth for me as well as I've uh, discerned between um, a number of different pastors and faiths and what I've discovered, religion and so forth. And I continue to grow in that. So this last couple months for me has been a lot of study, a lot of searching, um, and a lot of personal growth for me, I feel. And since it's my journey, that's really what counts. So I started this show as part of the network with Chance. George, and we continue to do the shows and so forth. And so that's kind of my end or a little bit of background. I'll show you a little bit of the other side here. You can connect with me on my Facebook. You'll notice that it's actually titled Mark Russell. That is my given names. I do go by my actual God-given names that my parents gave me, and not the surname that actually belongs to the state. So that's kind of my kind of truther side of things. So I don't want that joiner with the surname. Um, but you'll see my Facebook is actually Mark Fanjoy 3, and you'll be labeled up and you'll come up as Mark Russell. So if you're ever wondering what the difference in there is, that's what it is, and that's why. And of course, our Facebook group, Living in Faith in Today's World. Um, Stop by, give us a join, and by all means, feel free to comment and so forth. And again, it's just a matter of a little bit of respect for each other and some kindness. There's no reason to have discussions and so forth without that. So, um, but it is for participation. And this gives me down to the point of why this go. So, this is a post that I did yesterday. Simple little mean. Uh, I'm not into the religion. I am a nation. I am Israel, and it's kind of simple and kind of complicated as it turns out. And that kind of gave me um, why the title of this debate. What for? Um, reading through all of the posts and Chance's comment on it and Sandra's replies and so forth, I wanted to touch base on the thing as an overview and not just as uh, the rhetoric response here, because I think I've seen so much of this, and part of my goal of learning and so forth has been this is such a commonality between anything. Um, Sandra responds from her worldview, her point of view, and her understanding. Um, and Chance has done the same thing. So if we come down here a little bit, you'll see that Chance is going Israel. Well, ISIS, Israel, El, looks like three ancient sun, and I believe that should be God's, then nation or religion. So what truth is it exactly? Now, maybe because I have experience with chance and so forth, to me, I take that as being absolutely a question. Uh, it's not meant as disrespectful. It's not meant as a dig. It's not meant as anything else. I happen to know Chance as a great amount of knowledge and so forth, and is very well read and um, has a general concern about things. I don't see that he has a really intent disrespectful side of him. So I'm able to read that and absolutely take it as a not only a question, but I look at it and go, well, what the heck is he talking about here? Um, ISIS plus RA plus EL looks like three ancient sun, and I'm taking that as gods um, because I get to read like I do in my typing, so I'll kind of translate that in there. Um, so what truth is it exactly? Well, there's the meme right there. So you take ISO, he's broken it down to this. So what is he talking about? And that's the way I would take him. But as we got into this, um, you can see, and I'll let everybody read the whole thing for themselves. You can see this is not the way uh, Sandra took it. Um, Chance makes a few other points in here as far as the whole religion is astrology, which is another popular worldview, and going down about the different languages and so forth. So to me, this is again, and then of course Sandra comes back with verses, um, and she's not wrong in her point of view. Um, and then down in here, Chance is mentioning because he can kind of feel the other side that Sandra is not taking him the way he is meaning to be taken. And again, that's probably just because I have the experience with Chance, but I don't see anywhere in here where he is being rude or disrespectful to anybody, in my opinion. But we all react to things because we're socially engineered to have these reactions. Just like, okay, well, let's debate, and even Chance is saying the same thing. Well, let's get Mark on, and why don't Sandra and you come on this show and we'll debate? And this is kind of what I wanted to step back here and take a little bigger picture about things and go like, what are we debating for? We have our views of things and our way of looking at it, and if we want to just keep on debating each other, then are we really getting anywhere in that format? Is the format of debating maybe ages ago or maybe at different levels appropriate? I think so because it's an exchange of information. It's not sitting there pounding somebody and telling them you have to believe what I believe or you're wrong. Um, I think the truth is a little bit more elusive than that until you break through man's layer of things. Um, is the the word of Yahweh up for debate? Absolutely not. That's where I would cut it off. But now you also have to add in that because I'm not foolish enough to believe, okay, well, what's his word? Now you've got to separate all the man's influence in there. And what's the difference between the word and the traditions? So we need to be a little bit more clear about our definitions of things that we're going to say and what we're going to act on um, before any debate is um, fruitful in those manners. So I think those are important things, and I think we also have to check ourselves in how we are reacting to people. Are we reacting out of our religious upbringings, out of our school upbringings, out of the social upbringings, or are we reacting from the word of Yahweh and how we want to be treated ourselves? Do we love our brothers as we would ourselves? Um, I mean, we're all fond of all these little sayings, but how much are we actually practicing? So I found this was a perfect opportunity just to kind of share a little bit of how my journey's been going and where I'm learning from, and how I would turn around and see this exchange. Um, so I'd go back to what Chance is actually asking and not get tied up into their actual discussions back and forth. Because inside of there, I hadn't seen Chance's initial question of Israel and this little section right here. I have not seen that answered. So I want to know what he's saying in the first place, and I'm going to take it that he's given the gateway here. So I'm going to go up to ISIS and see what that is. Oh, okay, ISIS God. And as I punch in, isn't Google wonderful? We live in such awesome times um, to have all this. Can you imagine 2,000 years ago when you just have to get somebody to explain all this stuff? Um, so there's this one. Um, okay, so I see where he's saying that. Let's go to RA. Um, RA is over here. Sorry, RA God. It's another God. Um, looks through the Babylon. Now, each one of these, as you also type them in, I'm just giving you a very simple example. And then, of course, L. So I myself happened to, through my journey, had gone through these a couple of years ago as I was starting to look through truths, and which led me into the scriptures, that led me down part of these journeys. Because for the first thing that you start seeing is, of course, the atheism about things, the intrusion of the paganism into everything. And one of the things that I always had the curiosity about is, well, what the heck is Israel? And um, these were one of the first things that I did come across was this type of explanation, exactly what Chance has been saying. This is what Israel means. So that's kind of where I think I had a little bit of uh, maybe an advantage in this post and knowing Chance, and part of my journey was okay, this thing's not moving for me. Doesn't want to catch. There we go. Sorry. Um, so I kind of had a heads up on that, and kind of had already gone through Bell and the rest of it. So, but getting back to the actual question here, and um, I think Chance is making a valid point from his worldview, and but the question's not answered. In order to answer a question, don't you have to have a little bit of understanding of where that person is, or clarify what that person is actually asking? Um, so if you didn't get what he's asking, then wouldn't you reply back going, I don't understand your question. What are you talking about? And then he could have elaborated and maybe even shown you these things and so forth. But then you're in a conundrum. Now you've got this information and you've got to justify it to yourself. Well, that's awesome. This is great. I get to dive in and find more truth. I get to lift off more veils because it's my understanding and it's my worldview that once you keep on digging and you keep on going through these veils, you are going to end up at Yahweh and His word, and you're going to find out what that word is. Now, that's my worldview, and I'm totally satisfied with that. You can get down into more of the debate that I'll leave you to go and read it for yourselves, but it still comes down to that end of things on how we're debating and so forth. So I'm going to, um, as Chance went down here, he did ask, I'm going to ask the real question here or try to answer his. And I'll start off with asking him one back was, okay, you're asking, so what truth is it exactly? Well, what's your truth? Who created the word Israel? Whose word is that? Is that word God's, Yahweh's, or man's? Whose definition are you going with? Because what I see here is two very distinct possibilities here. We can either go through with Yahweh's definition of it, which is who created it. He created it. He created the word. Man didn't create the word. He created it through his prophets and it was written down. Now, what about all of Chance's definition? Well, is that not man's definition? Who came first? Did Yahweh pass down the name Israel through his prophets? Or did God take it from man who made up the gods Isis, Ra, and El? Which one is it? I think I'll take the first. Because so far in this lifetime, I haven't been able to believe anything that man has said or has created. So, and the more that I keep on learning, I find out just how much of a manipulation that is. So I'll start off with answering him by going, you're absolutely right. Your definition of Israel is the man-created name Israel, made up of these, and so forth. But my actual response to your question, if I'm going to elaborate and go a little deeper, is, or take the liberty of going further with it in answering what truth exactly, I'm adding in the truth of what is the true name of Israel and who created it, who is the creator, and then is it not the creator's definition of that creation that you have to go by? I don't need to debate you on what your definition of it is. By somebody else's books, by somebody else's creation. No different than this truther side of everything else. What do I want to turn around and say the word person means this? And like we created that terminology, so person means each other and so forth? Or am I now going to turn around and go, oh, no, it doesn't mean that whatsoever. No, the Law Society says person means this. So you're underneath the definition by that organization. We own you. You're chattel, and you're just going to do what you're told. To me, this is exactly the same thing. You're either going to go by the Father's creation definition of the word, or you're going to go by, this little group of men over here have decided that they're going to have control over you and take you, and they're going to manipulate you to what your beliefs and everything else are going to be, and we'll tell you what it means. To me, those are your two options. So this is why I'm very careful about just setting into these debates and not taking some time to understand each other and maybe do an awful lot more clarification of where people are getting their sides from and so forth. And this is a perfect example for to myself anyway of what may be a little bit more patience or a little bit more understanding can accomplish. Um, from my point of view, and Sandra can respond or she can come on anytime um, and discuss this as well. Um, she got quite offended by his responses to things and got on with the verses and then just shuts them down. Well, I understand her point of view too, because there's scriptures in there that, if somebody's being offensive or you're finding that offensive and it's a non-believer and so forth, we're also instructed that you don't need to have that influence in at you. You don't need these uh, influences on you, and be careful who you're associating with and so forth, which is sound, but that also has to be tempered in the overall message as well. If we're not engaging other people and we're not trying to uh, walk in Yeshua's manner, then how are we ever going to get anywhere either? So those again, I think we need to start exercising a lot more wisdom. We, and as some of the things I've been um, receiving a lot lately is, what, plain and simple, we got to grow up. This, this, this sucking on the milk of society and sucking on the milk of everybody else has got to stop. We've got to start growing up and getting some maturity and start trying to gain some wisdom in what we are learning and so forth. Um, and both parties are guilty of this. We all are guilty of this on whatever level, in my opinion. Um, I I find it challenging. I find it very interesting. I have always been a engager of conversations, and I have from time to time been guilty of baiting discussions in order to get something flowing. I will admit it. Um, it can be uh, entertaining at times, let's say, especially when somebody's so easily flown off the handle. Um, but I think it's important that in these times that we start um, really engaging each other in a much broader sense. Um, Chance has his worldview. I see where it comes from, and I understand a great deal of where it comes from. Um, and the biggest part of it all together, that I'm learning more and more, and is it's not his worldview is not my responsibility. Sandra's worldview isn't my responsibility. Um, how I react to him is, and that sounds like a little new age, but again, whose opinion is that? Does that stem back from the creator who created it, or is it the new age that kind of took it and spun it off into their own thing? Um, I'll take the first again. It's not my responsibility in the sense of it's not my job to beat anybody over the head and tell them this is truth. This is not my position. You know, this is and it comes back. I did a show. I think it was through Canada Nation a long time ago. Part of my journey with this, I'll share a little story with you. Is um, I went through the whole First Nations thing and back to roots and part of doing our history and um, trying to learn some of that cultural side of things and so forth. And I went through a number of their teachings and participated in some of it. Um, I even took part in the Sundance ceremonies and volunteered in it and was part of one. Um, and that was also a part of the journey, learning the great law, and learning those sides of things. And one of the lessons I really took from them was giving advice and interfering in somebody else's journey. And it was so, at the time, it just really so resonated with me and really hit a chord and became part of an understanding. And then as I progressed and continued on with this journey into the scriptures and so forth, I'm finding the exact same message, only stronger. Part of their message was you're interfering in somebody else's journey. Like, who are you? Uh, you think you know better than the Great Spirit, or you, in this case, now I would go to what? Am I supposed to know better than Yahweh? What his path and what his journey for this person is, that I'm going to interfere with it and tell them what to think and tell them what to do. It's not my job. It's not my responsibility. Will Yahweh use somebody to shed a light or so forth, or share some information and give a guidance? Absolutely. He uses all of us. And but it's up to him to call you onto him and to reveal himself to you. It's not up to me to interfere in that journey. And again, that's my 2 cents with it. Um, just in closing, I hope that kind of answered a couple questions for Chance and for Sandra. I did say I would do a little comment on this instead of typing out a whole big response. Um, but just in closing here, I would encourage you. We've got such great resources now. I think a lot of us are gaining in our knowledge and in our experience. I think we need an awful lot more patience with each other, or at least asking each other a lot more questions about clarifying their positions or what they're actually saying, and then why, um, and discerning that information. I'll share with you as well. We have a lot of absolutely great resources for myself. Um, well, we'll just go on some of the debating here. Rev Zacharias is a great apologist. He has a number of great videos out and so forth that asks a lot of basic questions. He does a lot of lecturing where a lot of statements like Chance is saying and so forth, um, he answers because a lot of the people in the audience are asking the same questions. I encourage people to listen to these. Some great worldviews and some good answers. Um, Listen, you can always just punch in debate, and you're going to find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos and YouTubes and tons of different arguments and positions and so forth. Um, but for me, the Rev and another one that I started off with a couple years ago was John Lennox. Um, I have listened to probably all of his stuff, as much as I could ever get my hands on, as I was starting into this side of the journey as well. So there is absolutely huge resources out there. Um, and another resource that I've kind of whittled down out of listening to or trying to follow a dozen different ministries and dozens of different speakers and so forth. Over the last couple of months, I've recognized the Torah, the Hebrew roots, for lack of a better term, and one of the most extensive sites, along with um, what I believe is just some awesome teaching, is the Messianic Torah Observance of Israel. Um, I encourage anybody to stop by and take a look. They have their YouTube channel as well, and um, you can discern things for yourself. So that's kind of my comment back to the Facebook posts and so forth. Um, I hope this has helped. I hope it answers things. Um, I hope you keep on just being a little bit kinder to everybody, and may Yahweh show you His path for you. God bless. Love out to all of you. Respect.